And I'm not sure if we're live yet.
Oh, wait, don't do it yet.
It's still launching. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right, so we've got.
Oh, God.
Everything okay?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah? Okay. All right, so we'll give everyone just a couple minutes to jump on, and then we'll do some introductions, if that sounds good.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, cool. Do y'all want to say hi so I can test your sound again? Joanna, I can hear you.
Okay. Hi.
Christy, you sound good, a little quiet.
Okay.
There you go. That sounded better.
Jump on. Introduction.
Juana, you want to say hey so I can hear?
Hey, everybody.
Okay, there you go. Sounds good. Let's see. Okay, it's 5:31. We'll give it till 5:32.
Yeah, I'm getting quiet. Okay. There you go.
Okay. Juana, were you able to share it? Everything good?
I'm trying to share it. I shared it on my page, but I'm trying to share it on the Family Center page. So.
Okay. When you go to share, there should be a way you can click on like your name, and it should let you change it to the Family Center.
Yeah, that's what I'm now having. I have to go back in and change it. So.
Okay, all right, it's 5:32, so let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to our Facebook Live. I'm Abby Mormon, a victim advocate at the Sexual Assault Support Center, and I'm here with a few of the amazing counselors at the Family Center. So if you guys would all take a second and tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Christy Muller. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist at the Family Center. Sorry, Joanna.
That's okay. Hey, I'm Joanna, and I am an associate professional counselor at the Family Center.
And hi, I'm Juana Lyles. I'm a licensed professional counselor at the Family Center.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming back out. So for those of you joining and viewing, we are doing another talk on how to cope with and handle this strange existence we're all in during this global pandemic, and different tips and that kind of thing. Last time was just such a good, powerful experience. I learned a ton, and I know many of our viewers enjoyed it, so we wanted to jump back on and do all that again. First and foremost, I want to tell everyone, make sure that you know that anything you comment during this video is going to be public. So there is no concrete confidentiality through this. It's a public live video. If you would like to maintain confidentiality and you have questions and that kind of thing, you are more than welcome to message the Sexual Assault Support Center's page or the Family Center's page. Send us messages to maintain your confidentiality, and we will get to those as we can. But feel free, for those of you who would like to and are not so concerned about confidentiality or anonymity, you're welcome to comment, and we'll try to say hey and that kind of thing. So, whoa, got a lot of viewers already. Let's dive in.
Awesome.
Yeah. So first off, would you guys mind telling us kind of what is anxiety?
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it was quiet because I was like, not everybody at once. But so go ahead.
Yeah, so I would describe anxiety as there's different levels of it, and so it's more of like a spectrum. And then you experience, positive stress, but anxiety is going to be something that feels overwhelming to your body, sometimes to your thoughts where you can't think straight. You might have some sort of bodily reaction to it, so heart racing, hard time breathing, sometimes even like blurred vision, depending on how bad the anxiety is. But it's a response to a stressor that's usually coupled with your thought process feeling like it's out of control, is the way that I would define it.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in?
Joanna is exactly right. It's just more of you not being not able to function normally because of worry and fear. There's different categories of anxiety, but that's the general thing for anxiety. So if it was social anxiety, you have fear and worry about being in front of groups of people or being out in public with people. So that kind of sense.
Okay. What about, where would you guys say, is there a line that you can cross between like normal average worry and anxiety?
I think we do all have some form of worry, and some form of worry is a good thing because it keeps us on our toes. It keeps us cautious about what it is we need to be aware of. But when it starts to impair your day-to-day functioning, like the lady said before, that's when it becomes more of the anxiety. So if you notice that you can't control it anymore, or you notice that you're now missing sleep, or you're not able to eat properly, and you're just constantly thinking about the things that are going on in your life, that's when it becomes anxiety, and that's when it's something that you want to start to chime in on to see how you can start to decrease it and better cope with it.
Okay, cool. So, would you guys say that the current circumstances people are in right now with isolation, shelter-in-place orders, are those things that can kind of heighten worry and anxiety, and how?
Go ahead, Wanda.
I was going to just say most definitely, because it's, to some extent, it's normal. It's very normal because this is something totally different that none of us have ever experienced, at least to my knowledge. No one alive has really had to suffer through a worldwide pandemic like this. So just normal everyday worry about maybe getting sick, or you might have family members that are sick, or people that you know that have gotten COVID-19. So just worrying about catching it yourself, and like if you're going to get paid, if you're going to be able to go back to work, or things like that is normal for everybody. But once I think it starts being obsessive in a sense, and you have fear that is just overwhelming, that you can't function, that you're too afraid to just even go to the store, but you really need stuff and you're just too scared, then that might be a sign that it's a little more than just the normal worry that any average person would be having right now.
So what I feel like you guys are saying is, if I feel a little more right now than normal, like that's okay, I'm normal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think we would all agree.
Right.
Okay.
I think, not to take us off on a tangent, but even just the simple act of going to the grocery store and seeing other people wearing masks, it's not normal, and it heightens your anxiety in general, right? Because that's not, maybe if you're at a hospital, you might be used to that, but not at the grocery store, not when you go to get gas. Like that's not a normal thing to have happen. So yes, I would say if you're stressed out in the grocery store and that's not a norm for you, having a lot of anxiety, that would make a lot of sense, simply based on the fact that things look very different right now.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So
And
then,
I know, I'm sorry.
oh no,
I was just going to add real quick. I know that we've all seen memes and different types of things where it's like somebody coughs and everybody's like, so that's kind of like where you have that heightened awareness, because it's this type of worry that we all have. But to Joanna's point, if somebody coughs and then you go and then you're immediately having like thoughts that you already caught it or something like that, or, and then you are just obsessing over, I need to go to the hospital, and then you start having your own symptoms, because that's a whole nother tangent that we could go down with having somatic symptoms. So you can kind of make yourself sick by thinking that you have it, kind of thing.
Wow. So then what are some things we can do with all of that, especially in kind of more extreme moments like that where you start to actually have sickness symptoms? What are some ways we can keep ourselves calm, keep ourselves focused? Do you guys have like practical tips? Take it away.
I think something that's important is try to prepare yourself. So if you already know that you have anxiety or you get worried pretty quickly, especially now with the intensity of everything going on, set aside a to-do list. Or if you do have to go to the grocery stores, try to think about what time of the day may be best for me so that I can be a little bit more calm than I would if I go maybe at 12 o'clock noon and I know everyone may be in there. Also trying to remind yourself of facts. So, be aware, are you really having certain symptoms? Are you experiencing some of these things? Or are you noticing that you're just constantly thinking and thinking? And we can kind of talk ourselves out of things once we become aware that it is a trigger. So I think that those are some things that could be helpful in relation to this too.
Yeah, just to join with what Christy was saying, making a list of like what are your non-negotiable self-care things that you need to focus on each day. Not to say that you have to do those things, or else, but just to have a plan in mind. So that might be like some practical things could be meditation, waking up in the morning and trying to start your day in a very intentional way with checking in with yourself. What kind of sleep did you get last night? Have you are you drinking enough water that day? What are your goals as far as maybe who's one person that you want to reach out to today? So having a very intentional mind about trying to keep a rhythm for yourself, because getting out of rhythm can actually just be such a hard thing for people because you're used to being in a certain place at a certain time with certain people. At least that's been my experience, right? Like I haven't seen my people a lot recently, and so it can be very disruptive. Very disruptive. So I think, but meditation would be a great way to start the day. I think as a practical tool.
And so I want to add to Joanna. So like she's saying, having a rhythm and like a routine, and just try to keep yourself on some kind of schedule, especially people staying home with children, things like that, helps to keep a structure. So like she's saying, but also I wanted to add about screen time. Like, I know when this first started, me personally, I was just like not really watching the news, and then I got obsessed with watching the news, and so it was like on all day. And then I'm on social media more, whereas before I wasn't. So now I'm seeing other things that people are posting that's kind of making me kind of go in a freak out moment of like, oh my god. And then I'm saying, honey, did you see this, did you see that? And so just monitoring your screen time, and even for your children, because they may not truly understand everything that's going on. And if it's on social media, it's facts. Not really, I'm joking. But it's just that's how people think though. It's like, oh, I saw it on Instagram, so it must be real, or I saw it on Facebook, so it's real. This is going on, and you can overwhelm yourself with that. So just maybe limit your screen time, and make sure your sources are valid sources, not just I think all of us got some email or a message at some point that says it's from a friend that has a friend that works at the Pentagon or something like, so it's like one of those kind of things. So I got several of them all at one time. So just monitor that and make sure that your resource is a valid resource.
That's so good. Thank you, guys. I know several of y'all have mentioned to me also some like practical movements that you do sometimes when, like, let's say you're in a moment of panic. We're at the grocery store and things are getting out of control in my head, or other situations related to that. Are there any physical strategies I can put in place to help me ground myself, or just kind of, to calm that moment?
You saw me get excited because that was like something that I remember talking with you about that as a
Yes, last
technique
time.
that that we learned. Yeah, exactly. So you like ball your fist up and like scrunch yourself up really tight, and then you just let like each finger, starting with your thumb maybe, and each finger one at a time, and it kind of relaxes you. So what you're doing is tightening yourself up and then relaxing yourself, tightening yourself up and relaxing yourself. But you're also making yourself breathe because a lot of times that's what happens anyway, where we need to take some deep breath. So that's my main thing. I'm always like, because you do that when you get upset anyway. So just be mindful of it and just help yourself to relax. That's something quick and easy.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that, Lana. It's good.
Anyone else?
Did y'all want to add some more things or?
Yeah, I think for grounding, I love the using your body like that, like Lana was saying, because we forget about our bodies so often in the grounding process. But a way to cognitively bring yourself back would be just to notice what's around you. A really simple one is just to name 5 things. So that go along with your senses. So what's one thing that you can hear, one thing that you can taste, one thing that you can smell, one thing that you can feel or like be touching. And I always forget the 5th sense for whatever reason. But just being really aware of what's around you. Because what happens with anxiety is it takes you far away from your body and from where you're currently at. And you're focused on things that you can't control. And so bringing yourself back to the present is a really great tool, even if you can't make it through all 5 senses, or if you're like me and you can't remember all 5 when you're trying to stand there and do it. Just being really present with where you're at in that moment.
Awesome. Hi, Karen. Karen says hi. We've had a couple other people comment saying this is good stuff. Thank you, ladies. Great advice. So thanks, guys, for commenting and participating. So shifting gears a little, many of us are now isolated to home and maybe in situations with people who can make that a little more difficult. Maybe they are just hard to get along with, or maybe it's a little more than that. Can y'all talk about ways to cope with maybe difficult people, things we can do, suggestions, thoughts?
I think, yes, most definitely. And I think one thing to be aware of too is there's a lot of different ways to view difficult. So difficult, of course, could be if you're in any safety type of concerns with an individual. Difficult could also be with the ones we love the most. So our family. So thinking about our partner or our kids, or if they're younger kids, they're thinking about their siblings. And so it's good for one, especially thinking about if we're just talking about family as a whole. If you are living with individuals and let's say you have a young child and another child who's close in age, sibling rivalry is real. So let alone if they're now having to be around each other all day, every day, I think it's important to be aware that that doesn't mean that anything is wrong with them or you if you become frustrated. So, just trying to find things that you can do to occupy each child. Sometimes we got to pull them away from each other. Sometimes if it's 2 parents in the household, maybe one parent can spend time with one child, another parent can spend time with the other child. You can also think about taking time to kind of find some interests, like maybe one child's interested in music while another child is interested in drawing, and just kind of continuing to emphasize what those interests are so that they can feel still like they have individual space and not have to be so crowded, but still allow them to acknowledge how they feel. So take that time away with them to just kind of talk about, like, what are you experiencing right now? Is it really that your brother or sister is causing you so much distress? Are you thinking about what's going on as far as what we see on the TV or what you hear me and dad or me and mom talk about when we're in the kitchen? So being able to realize that your children are children, but they're smart. So they know that things are going on, and paying that time to allow them to express their emotions is going to be important. So that's just one idea of how difficult it can be. And another I want to tap in real quick is if you're in the relationship, a couple. We can love our partner dearly, But as the ladies talked about a little earlier, we're used to a certain routine. And our certain routine is maybe getting up, both of us go to work, we come home at night, and that's when we connect again. But when we're here right now in this pandemic and we're possibly having to see this individual all day, every day, that doesn't change that we love them any less, but we need maybe a little individual space, and we have to feel comfortable to share that with our partner. So if you don't, instead you'll notice your conversations become geared towards, why don't you ever clean the dishes? Or why are you always sitting on the couch watching TV? We start to focus on the things that aren't really important, as opposed to, I'm really scared during this time and I don't really know how to talk to you. So how can we get together right now and focus on communicating? So think about ways to have some individual alone time with your partner during this space where your kids are maybe asleep, or you just kind of sneak off on your balcony and have, a little luncheon or something like that on the balcony. So still take time to really adjust to caring for each other, as opposed to just thinking that, okay, we're all in the same household, so that means we're getting along, because the times right now can cause those frustrations to become even more intense. So I feel those are some examples of some difficult situations that could occur within the family unit. Even though we still love these people, still give yourself the benefit of the doubt that we're all human. So we all still need a voice, and we all still need some time apart so we can come together and maybe have a conversation that's productive.
Wow, that's so good. Definitely being aware of, I'm feeling frustrated right now, and it might not even be related to this particular thing that's in front of me.
Yes.
Other, Juana, Joanna?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, when I think about dealing with difficult people, it helps for me to understand what kind of difficult person that I'm dealing with. So in general, I list 4 different kinds of difficult people. There's the critic, the bad listener, the frenemy type person, and then the fixer. So knowing what kind of person you're dealing with, what kind of difficult person you're dealing with, can be really important. That way you know how to set boundaries in a way that's going to be the most helpful. So for instance, if to Christy's point, if your partner is a fixer, and so you take your feelings and they try to fix it, that can be a very difficult situation. And it can lead to a lot of escalation really fast too, because then if you're not responding how they want you to, then they might start to feel bad and lots of rejection. So it can just be this vicious cycle. Yeah. Or it might be that you're the fixer and you have kids and you just want to fix the situation for them, when it's really not something that can be fixed. And so realizing what kind of difficult person you're dealing with, and then setting boundaries that are appropriate for that specific type. And there might be many different type of people, because we're all difficult in some capacity, right? But there might be a leaning that a person has, or that you yourself realize that you have. And so setting those boundaries for yourself, healthy boundaries that are set for you, setting boundaries for or on other people generally doesn't work. So setting those boundaries for yourself.
Okay. What kind of boundaries are we talking?
Yeah, so it helps to bring it into context, I think, because they can be kind of big ideas. So if you have a fixer and you're taking them gosh, like, I just feel a lot of anxiety today, I had a lot of bad dreams, and I'm feeling like I just want to like eat 10 pieces of pizza and stuff, like shove it all in and keep everything in today, and I'm just feeling a lot. That they might come back with a very simple answer to a very complex problem, which can then make you feel really minimized in the process. So you recognizing that you have a fixer means that you can say, I want to bring you my feelings, and I would just appreciate if you would listen to my feelings. You don't have to try to fix it. If this is a safe person who would receive that well. So that would be one really practical way to set a boundary with a fixer, is just communicating. I understand that you want to fix this, and I get that. And I'm hoping that I can just express my feelings to you right now. And you don't have to fix that. I'm responsible for my feelings. Nobody else is responsible for my feelings but myself, in a safe situation, of course. So, so that's one practical way. I could go through all of them, but I want to respect our time too. So
That was so good. Juana, did you want to add anything?
Am I frozen?
I think you
Yeah.
are.
Okay, because I was thinking, I'm like, not moving, but you can hear me still, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just agree totally with them because I'm the same thing. I want to be respectful of our time, but I just want everyone to keep in mind to be mindful of who you are in it, like Joanna's saying, because you could be the difficult person while you're thinking everybody else is. But if you're in situations of like abusive type situations, or you're with a person that had been abusing you, by all means, you need to be mindful of that. And like Joanna's saying, your boundaries, they're safe for you. So if that person's overstepping, meaning they're hitting you or abusing you in some type of way, please, call emergency numbers, go to the police, keep yourself safe, whatever that takes for you. But also be mindful too that because there's anxiety going on, that is one of the symptoms that people can get short tempered and be more angry towards people. So, it may not really be that they're trying to be difficult, but just because they're so stressed and have anxiety or depression or any other types of mental health illnesses that could be affecting them even more so because of the situation. So just also be mindful of that and don't let anybody break your boundaries, but be mindful that they might just need some calming down and talking to as well, just because they're at a high anxiety place.
Yeah. Yes.
yeah,
I actually heard on a webinar earlier today, someone was talking about how we're really all under stress right now. And so, no, there's no room for abuse at all of any kind. But when it comes to just being difficult and having a hard time, we kind of have to give each other a little extra space um, to be a butthead right now sometimes. If I can use that friendly term.
yeah,
Yeah, just so I think that goes into that too. Like, we need people to be patient with us and extend that as well.
absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important to say that I've heard somebody say that this is like a collective trauma. So we're all experiencing a collective trauma right now. And so it may be that things don't feel normal, even if it looks normal, even if you go back to your normal schedule, you may still feel emotionally like you're still trying to process everything, and giving yourself that space for that to be okay. But yeah, I would say, to go back to what Juana was saying and what I was saying earlier, 3 boundaries that you could really try to set for yourself that I think could be helpful would be a time boundary, physical boundaries, and emotional boundaries. Even if you just have one of those things, and again, boundaries are things that we set for ourselves, not for other people. So you can name those for yourself, and then allowing others to name those boundaries for themselves as well.
That's so good. Okay, so looks like we've got 10 more minutes. I wanted to ask you guys about a couple of things that were mentioned last time and see if we can squeeze in some quick answers. So someone mentioned, it sometimes it feels really icky when I'm helping my kids with their homework. Like, I just don't feel good about myself after or during that moment. Can you briefly tell me kind of what that is and if that's okay, or comment on that?
It's definitely okay. Again, like we were all saying a little earlier, our normal schedule may not have allotted us to be at home schooling our children on a regular basis. And now that children are home, we've all had to make some adaptations to be able to do those things. So I think being able to give yourself, one, the benefit of the doubt, to realize that, okay, I wasn't set out to be a teacher, but at the same time, I do love my child and I want to be able to help when I can. But it's okay to be aware of the frustrations that come along with that task or learning that task. So I think it's really important to identify still how can, like we all talked about, how can we still have self-care during this moment? How can we still pull away for some individual time to just regroup? Because we can love our families again very dearly, and it doesn't make us a terrible person when we get frustrated with different individuals that may be in the family. And some things like the schoolwork can be one of those frustrations. But being able to be aware of that will help you to better communicate with your child about why that's occurring, as opposed to it being more about the child. It comes off as, okay, I'm aware that this is something that's hard for me. I'm accepting this piece, or I'm okay with trying to work through this piece. And then that way I can move back and try to help my child when I need to. So I think it's good to give yourself the benefit of the doubt, acknowledge how you feel. And then once you acknowledge how you feel, work on some of those coping skills like some of the ladies talked about earlier to help yourself to feel rejuvenated or to feel confident in being able to do what it is that's going to bring you a sense of peace during this time. But it's definitely normal to feel a little frustrated or a little overwhelmed with having to do all these tasks when you weren't doing these things prior to this pandemic. So
very good.
Yeah, and yeah, like Christy was saying, feeling the feeling of holding both. Like it's okay that you really hate what's happening right now, and that you're frustrated, and that you don't understand how to do the new math thing that everybody is doing. You didn't grow up with that, and to love that, like, you're actually getting to understand how your kid learns. Like maybe you haven't seen that. Maybe like their teachers teach them, right? So you don't see them day in and day out. So you're getting that new new example of who they are, and so that's awesome. But I think it's okay for you to experience both things, to view maybe even just each moment on a continuum. It doesn't have to be a very black and white, like things are good or bad, but really just to be able to allow yourself to see things on more of a continuum instead of a, like, it's either all good or all bad.
Awesome. Okay, so we're down to our last 6 minutes, and I have one more question I'm hoping we can answer kind of quickly. Again, last time, y'all mentioned this concept of toxic positivity, and for me, that was the first time I'd heard of that. And I was wondering, what is that, and how can we better handle each other when we're checking on each other and that kind of thing?
Yeah. So toxic positivity is, so positivity in and of itself during this time is not a bad thing. So it's not saying like no one should be positive, right? But it is where maybe you log on to Facebook and you see, your first post is just get over it. Like everything's going to be okay, right? Or it might be somebody just completely spiritually bypassing. Maybe you take them like a really gritty problem, a really anxious moment, and their response is simply like, "Oh, I'll pray for you," right? Like that. There's this very toxic sense of somebody can't hold your pain, and so instead they just kind of give you like a platitude, like, "Oh well, pain makes you stronger," and then they walk away, right? And so while it may be true that going through struggles is a part of the growth process, acknowledging the person's pain in that moment and not minimizing it is a healthy piece of healthy communication and healthy relationships. So yeah, that toxic positivity. And then you end up kind of feeling like, well, there's something wrong with me, right? If you're walking away from a situation and this is beyond even COVID, right? But especially during this time, there's a lot of room for you to take your pain to places and then walk away feeling like, oh, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm just not strong enough. Maybe if I would have done this, maybe if I do this. But just to allow yourself to know that like this is a collective trauma, and not everyone is going to be able to hold your pain. And that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you just because of
I love that. Thank you so much for explaining. Unfortunately, we're almost out of time. This has been so good and so cool. I want to say first and foremost, thank you so much to you three for coming out and doing this with me again. I'm really, really thankful. And we had more comments of just people saying that they're relating to what we're talking about. I've had a lot of that. The reminder about boundaries is really good. And so I think this has been good. And so we've got 3 little minutes. I want to ask if any of you have one final sentence you want to say, and then we'll just sayonara.
I think my final thing would be, with all of everything that's going on, still try to feed yourself what positivity you can. I think it's important, especially like Joanne was just talking about, when it comes to that toxic positivity. If you're constantly feeding yourself with what you know to be true for you and what you're doing on your journey towards growth during this time or any other time, it can help combat the negativity that may come from another person, whether they mean it or if they don't mean it. It still helps you to be able to feel secure in who you are. So still practice telling yourself amazing things about yourself. If you got up today and you got dressed and you did something, different, maybe you cooked dinner today, maybe you made your bed today, acknowledge that. It's important. There's a lot going on right now. So take that time and say that for yourself.
Yeah. I love that. And I think my final word would just be to hold both, like to practice holding both. For instance, I'm really grateful and I love COVID for the fact that, like, I don't have to curl the back of my hair. All I have to curl is the front, right? But I'm very frustrated and struggle with the fact that I can't control my health in the same way that I can right now. And so yeah, holding both, I would say, would be my last word.
Thank you. 1 minute, Juana.
And I think as a final say, just most importantly, take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be good to your family members, your friends, your coworkers, or whoever it is. So just be mindful of what taking care of yourself looks like. And also, like everybody else is saying, validate. People need validation. And that's a lot of times they're telling you stuff because they just want to hear, like you were saying in the beginning, Abby, like, okay, so this is normal. They just need somebody to just validate for them. So just, you don't have to have an opinion, but just listen. So if somebody else is stressed, just let them vent to you without having to be having positive toxicity. So yeah, but just take care of yourself and be kind to others.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Let's bye, Facebook world.
Oh, is it over?